You know the drill. This weekend was pre-release, but I've been getting mixed messages on whether it was pre-release or general release. Considering big box stores like Walmart and Target are also getting packs, I'd have to argue it's both. But that aside, we've been seeing a staggering number of serial cards opened, with both the number 1 War Greymon and Metal Garurumon being opened, along with the numbers 10, 42, 100, and more. The narrative of today's video is going to cover 3 things: the usual statistics and metrics behind each card for Special Booster 2.5, my speculation of prices and cross-comparing it to other existing data, and metrics out there before giving an overall opinion of the set. As always, if you enjoy these types of videos, find them informative, do consider liking the video, sharing it, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more future content. If you have additional case data you'd like to add for future data comparison, please consider sending your box pulls using the template in the description of this video. The 10 cases of data for this video were compiled from my 3 cases, TheMightyJimJams 2 cases and 2 loose boxes, 2 cases from Zeric, along with a case each from Momentai, Zauber, and Legacy. Thank you so much for your contributions to this video, and I hope you had a fun time opening this set. In total, there were 122 boxes, roughly 10 cases, and a drop in the bucket. But what were some early signs that I saw immediately after calculating out some of the early statistics? Let's dive into the results. The first thing I like to look at are secret rares of the set, and overall, how healthy are they? I'll tell you right now that Luminamon Nene version is arguably one of the worst secret rares printed in the Digimon card game. Functionally, I can't really find a use for it outside of one deck, which is why the price is so cheap. Luckily, based on all the data compiled, it was the hardest secret rare to open, though only marginally because Zefirgamon Ace had only one higher pull than it. Between these two, both had a rough appearance of 37%, with about 11 boxes being needed to get a playset. The winner of the secret rares came out to Omnimon X appearing at a frequency of 42%, meaning almost 1 in 2.5 boxes, with about 10 boxes needed to get a playset. And considering it's the most expensive secret rare, worth it. Keep in mind, even though I'm making broad statements in regards to these numbers, you'll find that cases typically leaned one way hard each time. Some cases were Omnimon heavy, others Luminamon heavy, and others were Zefirgamon Ace heavy. This is where you're primarily gambling from the get-go. Amongst the super rares, the most common super rare was Shoutmon E Cross 6, at a frequency of 69%, which meant it'd take less than 6 boxes. However, the real challenge amongst cases was Taomon Ace, who only appeared at a frequency of 55% and needed close to 8 boxes to even achieve a playset. I personally can attest that my first case was a struggle, especially since it only yielded 3 copies out of 12 boxes. Filling in the rest of the data, you can see that broadly, the remaining super rares need anywhere from 6 to 7 boxes. Considering this is a combined release of half of BT19 and BT20, some players in the past have defined getting a playset of everything in the set that's a super rare within 6 boxes. This blanket general statement is actually false based on the data going back to even BT14, in which that typically you'll need 7 to 8 boxes to even guarantee a playset of super rares. It's the secret rares that normally become a problem. Which means that overall, when you compare pull rates from say BT14, BT16, and BT17, the ranges fall perfectly within normal bounds with this combined release. Even with the numbers of Special Booster 2.0, the ranges are identical. So overall, Bandai did a great job making sure that the metrics across sets were similar on a case-by-case basis. But while I've only covered part of the bases of super rares and secret rares, the metrics for today expand even beyond this into not just alt arts and chase cards, but the rares as well. Alternate arts have very limited data, and anecdotally from my cases, I dodged a lot of the subpar alternate arts. In particular, Zero Shoto Kazuma's and Death Xmon. Even Luminamon Nene version only appeared for me one time. But overall, in regards to this kind of data, the most commonly pulled alternate art was Koto Damoto and Yuji Messiah with about 3 cases needed for a playset. And with my 3 cases alone, I got 6 of them. Secret rare wise, Omnimon X has the highest frequency as well, at about 11% and about 38 boxes are needed to get a playset. Again, 5 total alt arts of Omnimon X were obtained in my 3 cases alone. The hardest alternate art came in the form of Shoto Kazuma, who would need in theory over 163 boxes to get a set of 4, which, for its current price, just buy it. Alphamon's another hard one, needing almost 122 boxes or 10 cases to get a set, while the hardest secret rare overall went to Luminamon Nene version. Again, considering Shoto and Luminamon Nene version are cheap, that's pretty darn good. But for those who did open these cards, I am terribly sorry. Promos saw an almost equal distribution, with Pukumon being the one that was hardest to obtain, needing a little over 16 boxes. But overall, each promo was roughly a case to get 4 of. As for chase cards, with 10 cases of data, this also meant that with sealed cases themselves, each one produced a chase or SP rare for the records. However, there have been reports of some cases yielding a serial and an SP, while others yielded nothing. In short, across the numerous stories that I heard, I would say that about 1 in 50 cases, maybe even 60 cases, have no SP. But no data was actually recorded, so most of this is conjecture and anecdotal experience. Honestly, this goes back to opening Luminamon NA versions and just bad luck. In chase card regards, the Fighter Mode and the Omnimon X had the highest frequency amongst the cases. But ultimately, with all of this data, what kind of conjecture does this lead to? Am I saying that Omnimon X could potentially have a higher frequency, meaning its price should be cheaper? Potentially. As supply steadily increases, then the demand will decrease, meaning the price of this card could in theory go down. Interestingly, amongst these cases of data, no serials were opened. Fellow Digifan Momentai also wanted to see one other aspect of data, and I felt I had to oblige with this one because this does help with providing a baseline for the future release of products. Rares are usually something players don't think too much about, and ultimately it's because players throw around the same logic that you should be able to get a playset of each rare within 4 boxes. But the question is, how true is this? Because of the fact that Special Booster 2.5 is a set that has more rares than 2.0, I wanted to know realistically how many boxes it would take to get a playset. The results are kind of interesting. Think about it this way, BT17 was the last set that we did this which did not combine with another set. In this set we had 22 rares, meaning that in a standard box of 24 packs you had 7 super rares, 1 guaranteed alt art with the last possible hit being another alt art, or the secret rare. Meaning out of 24 packs, realistically you'd see 48 slots minus 9 total hits, and you'd be left with 39 rares a box. With 29 rares, this meant that feasibly, assuming you opened one of every rare in a box, you'd also get a potential duplicate, meaning after 2.5 boxes, you should see a playset of rares. But in the Special Booster 2.5 scenario, this number goes from 22 rares normally to 38. Meaning in a single box, chances are not even getting a playset. And if you did, there'd be 1 duplicate. Momentai and I compiled data across 4 cases, and we found vastly different results from what you would normally see. Notice rares like Gallantmon, Sukuyamon, and more had an 82% showing. And while that's high, that still meant that you would need close to 5 boxes to get a playset. But why is this data important? What does it ultimately spell out? I conducted this particular comparison because this also gives baseline to sets like BT15, which while it was just a core set, this is also where Bandai implemented the LM cards, which significantly skewed the ratios and affected the pull rates. Likewise, BT11 was another similar situation. The purpose of this specific calculation is to showcase to the community that when it comes to core sets, keep them intact and as close to what is happening with a normal release. And should there be reprints or some other type of card pool involved with the set, it has to be involved as only ever a box topper. If it's a small reprint pool, 1 to 2 cards have been very favorable to elevate value for the box, but not go overboard. Moving to card price speculation, frankly when looking at prices as of today, Sunday, March 2nd, 2025, it appears that the release on Friday was actually a simultaneous release of general release and pre-release. And by golly, has everything tanked. At this time, I'm more so speculating on where the prices of specific chase cards will ultimately end up. Special Booster 2.0 was one of the sets that I was ready to just buy chase cards. But unfortunately, some of the few that I did ultimately buy came back to bite me in the butt. Because Guilmons were not worth that $200 initial price, and neither was a $400 Shadow Seraphimon Ace. Looking at the prices today, you can see that a lot of SP rares for this set are sub $100 to $120, with some even hitting a meager $50 price range. While there are presently a lot of chase cards for 2.5 up for grabs, honestly, a lot of them have also dropped. Initial players were saying Omnimon X was going to be an $1,000 card, but even so, we've previously seen Chase Ogudamon top out at $800, only to fall to the $300 it's at today. Chase Magnamon X dropped to as low as $400 before claiming the meta title of the Ultimate Gatekeeper that it jumped back up to $800. And lastly, Gallantmon X, who started off at about $600 and is now $400 to $450. The fact is, the closest comparisons to gold cards for this particular set would likely be Special Booster 2.0. and utilizing the values of Seed Millenniumon and Lucemon Satan mode, neither holds a comparison in status, name, or effect to Omnimon X. Despite that, these two cards are relatively tame at $200 to $300. As for Omnimon, I see this card leaning more at the $400 to $500 range in a similar territory to Gallantmon X. It just depends on whether it has a consistent showing and use in the up-and-coming meta. But for $800, I don't think that's a valid number. Other SP rares continue to fall as well, as ultimately this set has too many, and this product was likely printed as the same amount as 2.0. Grief Chase cards, Wargroundmon Ace, Rapidmon Ace, and Jestymon Blitzarm Ace are some that I anticipate to be on par in price with Dynasmon Ace. I'm not a market guru per se when it comes to videos, but I do think that there's way too many people who are opening chase cards for the first time and making the assumption that chase cards equal immediate money at whatever it is on TCG Player. But when you come to serial number Wargreymons and Metal Garurumons, that's a completely different bag of worms that deserves its own video. Bottom line, I think if you can pick one up for the $600 to $700 range, it's okay. Personally, I expected these to be at about the $400 line because of the amount of numbers that won't get any attention. Though I have heard at this time that the number 1 Wargreymon was sold at a price of $2,700 in a private sale. Whether this is true also remains to be seen. I take information I hear with a grain of salt. As of late last night or early this morning, depending on how you see fit, out of 36 boxes I had a net loss in 14 of those boxes. However, the overall profit across them was $21 a box after factoring in all the other boxes. You can definitely see a loss though if you're buying boxes at above $84, which is what I was getting them. So with that in mind, what are my overall thoughts of Special Booster 2.5? I feel that the same ratios as 2.0 are great for newer players coming to the card game. The primary complaints you'll probably hear from a majority of players are the inability to profit from boxes as easily. Though, my primary complaint is not adjusting boxes to account for the number of rares you can open. My secondary complaint, and really only other complaint, is something that Bandai wouldn't really be able to fix in this set, mainly because BT19 overall as a set feels very filler-esque. A lot of the cards are great for their archetype support, but conventionally a majority of them hold no value. Aside from Taomon Ace and Beelzemon Blast Mode Ace, the remaining BT19 cards are sub 50 cents to $1. Combine this with $1 Luminamon Nene version as one of your possible secrets, and it kills the opportunity for that sweet Omnimon X or Zephyrgamon Ace that could actually be used. Luminamon Nene just has limited application, and I'll argue to this day that this secret along with Shademon should have been in the previous combined release to make Millenniummon full power. My overall perspective for this is that it had to be done for the sake of catching us up for the global release. But still, I like to efficiently use space in a set as much as possible. Generally, what are your thoughts on the pull rates I've shown here? And will you be picking up boxes or blisters? Because ultimately when it comes to opening blisters, it's a complete shot in the dark of what you'll pull. No guaranteed pull rates, and no box toppers. But in your mind, is a box truly worth it this go around? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you on another upload. This is DIGI-PANDA, logging out.